Sire, Facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, and our Patreon page is also patreon.com/Secrets of the Sire. We'll be getting on Twitch in the next few months as well, too. Had a couple technical issues there getting on Twitch, but we'll be on there live as well, too. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, and as always, I am joined by Mr. Hassan Godwin, Lord of the Stream. How's that? Pretty good, right?
No.
No?
No. But all right. It's fine for now.
All right.
We'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
I'll have to change the licensing and stuff like that. It's
all right.
Okay.
Very cool. On last week's show, we delved into the phenomenon that is Vader, Shards of the Past, episode 1, how it's got 4 million YouTube views, something like that, and it's been pretty exciting for the fandom. We also did a special Last Jedi 1 year later podcast that we talked about as well too. But we wanted to dive a little deeper into Shards of the Past, and we wanted to kind of make our predictions, which are sure to go wrong, for what the next episode is going to be. For anybody not familiar with Shards of the Past, go check it out. It's on Star Wars Theory YouTube channel. They do a really terrific job of kind of bridging the gap between the end of the prequels, Episode 3, and what is now Rogue One, because now Rogue One is the closest friend to
to the prequels.
To the prequels now.
Right,
and ultimately, they do a really excellent job, and people are really excited about this. So, Hassan, without further ado, give me your predictions for episode 2, or maybe give the audience a little recap of what happens in the in Shards of the Past episode 1, so that your predictions will have some sort of context.
Basically, it's just a inflection or interwoven reflections of Vader, young Darth Vader, but still in the suit. He's young as Darth Vader, as the half man, half machine version of Darth Vader with no arms and legs. And he's I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's pathology. He's reflecting on all that he's lost. He's reflecting on like how he got into that suit, how the predicament that led him to what's been going on. He's reflecting on his childhood. He's reflecting on meeting Padme, on the fact that Padme died, and he's in his fever dream, which is a spoiler, kind of. It is a spoiler because you don't find out that he's dreaming until about 10 minutes in. That he blames the Emperor for the destruction. He blames the Emperor for his predicament, and he blames the Emperor for
which is a key component that we didn't quite get. It seemed like he went hook, line, and sinker by the end of the prequels in episode 3 into the dark side. So even though he's supposed to be conflicted, this kind of gives that context that maybe we didn't have or we didn't get to see, which was that even after everything kind of happened, there is a definitive want and need, and he's still conflicted and he's still thinking about her. So I thought that was actually really effective in that. And then I guess through this conflict, they eventually get to Naboo. I mean, basically, which was the funny thing about it, the Emperor is like, on my home planet Naboo, and I'm like, is he from Naboo? Oh yeah, I guess he is.
Yeah, he's from there. That was the whole reason why it was blockaded in the first place, to lend him sympathy enough so that he could ascend to the Chancellery and take over the Republic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a master stroke. Like I said before, or we were going over, I mean, the thing that struck me the most about it, and I know we're just reflecting on it, so we're not going to go too deep into it, but the thing that struck me the most about it is that the writing sounded like Star Wars,
Yes.
And I mean, even though the writing was covering new ground, like it was characterizing or fleshing out unexplored regions of the saga, like Vader's inner feelings and his conflict with the Emperor. It still sounded like Star Wars dialogue, and without really cloning, because a lot of fan films like to clone phrases, and there was some of that. He did clone one or two phrases, but a lot of the original dialogue sounded fresh and sounded also Star Wars, which is not an easy thing to accomplish.
No, and that, I think overall, and again, we talked about it on the podcast. You can download us on iTunes, iHeart Radio, SoundCloud. Just look up Secrets of the Sire, SIRE. We ended up kind of spilling over into Force Awakens a little bit. And the reason I brought up Force Awakens in comparison to Shards of the Past was Force Awakens, whatever gripes you have about the nostalgic aspect to it, or the, did J.J. Abrams just basically copy Episode 4? Was this necessary, et cetera, the character, the actual production value of the movie felt like a Star Wars film, whereas a lot of people's complaints about the prequels, and mine included, were that it was a little too glossy, a little too clean. It looked different. It just didn't have the right feel, the same, it had hints of it. And Last Jedi, obviously we've talked about that ad nauseum as well, kind of not having the same feel as previous Star Wars movies. This Vader feels like a Star Wars, like it feels like this was produced by Lucasfilm.
When he goes to Naboo, it takes on a glossy aspect of the prequels. So it starts off with the kind of used universe, motif of the original series with his conflict with the Emperor, and then he goes to Naboo, and it starts to look prequels-ish. I understand the complaint about the prequels, about the aesthetics of the prequels. I forgive it because I think it was to pay homage to the used universe of the original series, because it's like, okay, I'm going to showcase the used universe aspect of it by showing you that, like, 20 years earlier, things were glossy, things were very pretty, and then we had a war. We had the Clone War, and then things got run down, and then the oppression of the Empire, which didn't favor aesthetics, or it favored the cold hard, like, fascist aesthetics of grays and greens and straight lines and stuff like that. So I mean, I understand the criticism, but I think if the used universe had been utilized for the prequels, it would have just been confusing. Okay. People would be like, well, it always looked like this. And so who cares about the wars? And who cares about all that was lost? You were supposed to feel a loss from the prequels to the originals, that we've lost something. We've lost some grandiose. We've lost the golden age of the Republic. And now we're just dealing with the remnants of a republic and the aftermath of a terrible Clone War that led right into a civil war, which has ravaged the universe, the galaxy, and that's not to argue with you, because I understand exactly what you're saying about it, and why Shards of the Empire kind of reminds you of Star Wars, because it is the aftermath of destruction. So it reminds you of the original trilogy much more than it does the prequels. And so there's Rogue One, and Han Solo as we go forward into the Star Wars. And we're wrong, by the way, because this is the Shards of the Empire bridging the gap between Episode 3 and Solo. Before Rogue One. So just so we don't get murdered by Star Wars fans.
I think Star Wars fans have forgotten about Solo purposely. So maybe,
but there is the aftermath of the aftermarket of after it's out of the theaters, the home video market and whatever. It's kind of developed its own cult status. So I'm sure it will be appreciated a little more as we go on, but the wounds are too raw now.
So at the end of Shards of the Past, Vader's back on Naboo. He's kind of, it's hitting him. He kind of hovers over this this hole in the ground. There's some shooting going on. It's very nebulous as to what the threat was. The Emperor kind of makes mention of some threat that he needs to go, eliminate. Blah blah blah. Unless I missed it and you didn't. But I feel like there, so we really don't know what he's walking into.
if you just watch that, you don't know what he's walking into. If you watch the Star Wars theory, Rodriguez is basically Ramirez, excuse me. He basically explains that that's Mace Windu.
Okay.
That he's walking into to face Mace Windu. He says this on his own, and then behind the scenes, there's also a lot of concept art that you can find online.
So then it's sure not to go wrong. Our prediction is sure not to go wrong.
Yeah, everything is perfect. Everything is going to work out fine. Everything's going to be wonderful.
But here's my prediction, right? Is it going to be like the cave in Empire Strikes Back, where he's not necessarily facing a real Mace Windu, that Mace Windu is not...
That could be a total possibility, especially given the elements that they had utilized in the first one in Shards of the Empire 1, where we're kind of using an off reality where we don't know exactly what's real and what's not, because he starts off with a dream sequence.
Yeah.
So it could be totally that, and the Force does that to people. The Force likes to mess with people like that. So that's a good theory. That's a good possibility. That would for me, that would work better than him actually facing Mace Windu.
So here's the funny thing too, because Samuel L. Jackson's in every single movie. I feel like we have a shot
at
actually...
He's also in my living room right now.
What's that?
He's in my living room right
now.
I
know. He is. He's absolutely... So it would be great to have him. Yes, there's questions about whether he died for real or not. We don't know. But ultimately, if it is the battle, it just to me visually is so reminiscent of Luke climbing into the underground cave in Empire, to face demons. Ramirez sets up this whole inner conflict that he's got to destroy. Maybe to me, and I know it's not to you because you do fancy the prequels a little more than others. It could also rectify the scene in the prequels, Episode 3, that I think Lucas did not execute to its perfection, which is the moment that he kills Mace Windu. Should have been the definitive "I am now Darth Vader," but then he immediately gets wishy-washy. Immediately doesn't know what's going on. It never truly feels like he becomes Darth Vader. And then the next time you see him later in the prequels, he's like consumed by it, and it just didn't feel natural to me. It didn't feel like it was executed that way. So maybe this is Ramirez, giving us this now moment where we can truly have the Darth Vader, come to grips. And that seems to be what he's setting up.
Maybe.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah. I see what you're saying with that. And actually, he didn't kill Mace Windu. The Emperor kind of killed Mace Windu. He disarmed him.
Right. Yeah, like literally.
So there's room for him to still be conflicted there.
Yeah.
And then like one of the aspects or one of the nuances of the dark side, if you are pledging allegiance to the dark side, is that you have to continue to, in order to keep drawing power from it, you have to continue to keep contributing dark deeds.
Yeah.
So hence Kylo Ren killing Han Solo, right? To prove his darkness and to help him solidify his break with the light. So the idea is that Anakin was supposed to basically be conflicted throughout the entire purge of the Jedi, but he keeps committing heinous act after heinous act to further empower him into the dark side, to further pledge his allegiance to the dark side, so that he can ultimately be the all powerful dark side wielder, and then eventually take out the Emperor.
Yeah.
And the problem is he ran into complications.
Right.
He ran into Padme, and he ran into Obi-Wan, and things didn't go the way he wanted. And he came out a shell of himself, and so he didn't have the power to overthrow the Emperor after that.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. I can see from your perspective how you see it, and so maybe so. Maybe if this if Shards of the Empire, Shards of the Past 2 takes that route where it actually shows us the solidifying moment where he becomes he turns from the Anakin and broken shell of Vader that he starts out with as at the end of episode 3, and turns into the annihilating, throat crushing, imperial officer choking monster that he became in the original trilogy. So I can see where you're going with that.
We will find out, hopefully, if he can raise the money. I'm sure.
I like the other. He's asking for $200,000 this time.
That's it.
So
I'll go get my checkbook.
So there goes. The
check will bounce.
Of my predictions. I predict it's going to be harder than he thinks, but I think because of the reaction to this first one and the state that fandom is in right now, and the way that mostly demonstratively, a lot of the fans just want to stick it to Disney.
Yeah,
who didn't really cotton to this this fan film.
Yeah,
very they've come to accept it. I think there was a lawsuit regarding it that they lost, and
interesting.
But I have to look a little deper into that.
Yeah, please do, because then we could just start making movies.
Yeah, we can just go ahead.
I'll just cut together some footage. It'll be great. All right, these were our episode 2 predictions. Sure to go wrong for Vader, Shards of the Past. Again, check out our weekly podcast. It's everywhere. It's up on this YouTube channel. It's up on our Facebook channel. It is everywhere. It's Secrets of the Sire. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture normally, and
but we're never going to reveal what the secret of the Sire is.
We will never reveal what that is.
That will not be revealed. We'll figure it out first, and then we'll not reveal it.
Shh, don't go behind the curtain here, Mr. Oz. All right.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
We'll see you guys